In the vast expanse of the South Pacific, where the sea whispers secrets to the wind, there lies a chilling mystery that has haunted sailors and storytellers for decades. This is the tale of the SS Ourang Medan, a ghostly spectre of maritime legend. The year was 1947, or perhaps 1948, as the records remain uncertain. The Dutch freighter Ourang Medan was reportedly navigating the Strait of Malacca, that treacherous ribbon of water between Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula. The name itself, Ourang Medan, translates to man from Medan, a city on the Indonesian island of Sumatra. One fateful day, distress signals pierced the silence of the sea. Ships in the vicinity and coastal radio stations intercepted the haunting message. All officers, including the captain, are dead, lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. Then came a final, chilling transmission. A brief burst of Morse code and 2 words, "I die." Silence followed. A nearby American vessel, the Silver Star, responded to the distress call. It raced through the waters guided by the coordinates provided in the dying message. When they reached the SS Ourang Medan, the freighter was adrift, eerily still, against the restless waves. Boarding the vessel, the crew of the Silver Star was met with a sight so horrifying it would become the stuff of nightmares. Bodies of the Ourang Medan's crew were sprawled across the decks, their faces frozen in grotesque expressions of terror. Eyes wide, mouths agape, arms reaching towards some unseen menace. Even the ship's dog was found lifeless, mid-snarling growl. There was no sign of injury, no wounds to explain the crew's fate. It was as if death had claimed them all at once, in an unseen, unfathomable way. The Silver Star's crew decided to tow the derelict ship back to port, but before they could, smoke began to billow from the ship's lower decks. Hastily they cut the tow lines and retreated to safety. Moments later, the SS Ourang Medan was engulfed in flames. The fire raged briefly before the ship exploded with such force that it sank beneath the waves, taking its secrets with it. What killed the crew of the SS Ourang Medan? Speculation has run wild over the decades. Some say it was the toxic gases seeping from the cargo hold, or others whisper of supernatural forces, ghosts, aliens, or vengeful spirits of the deep. Skeptics point to the lack of concrete evidence, suggesting the entire story might be an elaborate maritime myth. The lack of official records about the ships only deepens the enigma. But even now, sailors crossing the Strait of Malacca sometimes glance uneasily at the horizon. For in the minds of those who know the tale, the spectre of the Ourang Medan still lingers, a chilling reminder that some mysteries of the sea may never be solved. The Arctic, a place of internal frost and silence, where time itself feels frozen. It was in these frigid waters in 1775 that the whaling ship Herald encountered a spectre, one of the most chilling maritime mysteries ever told. The crew of the Herald spotted a ship drifting aimlessly in the icy expanse. Its tattered sails flapped weakly in the polar wind, and its hull creaked ominously with every swell. The ship's name, barely legible beneath layers of frost, read the Octavius. Curiosity mingled with trepidation as the whalers drew closer. They hailed the vessel, but no reply came. Only the mournful cry of the wind answered them. A boarding party was assembled, and the men climbed aboard, their breaths misting in the cold air. What they found would haunt them forever. The deck was silent, deathly so. Snow and ice had claimed the ship, creating an eerie, crystalline tomb. Below deck, the crew of the Octavius was discovered, frozen solid at their posts, locked in the icy grip of death. They were eerily preserved, their faces contorted in expressions of fear and agony, as if they'd seen something unspeakable in their final moments. But it was in the captain's quarters that the most chilling discovery was made. Seated at his desk was the captain himself, frozen stiff, his lifeless hands still clutching a pen. Before him lay the ship's logbook, open to its final entry. The date was 1762, 13 years earlier. The logbook told of a harrowing tale. The Octavius had been attempting the perilous Northwest Passage, a treacherous route through the Arctic ice that few dared to traverse. Somewhere along the way, the ship became trapped in ice. The crew, isolated at the mercy of the elements, had slowly succumbed to the unforgiving cold. But how had the Octavius drifted free? And how had it remained hidden for over a decade, only to reappear in such a dreadful state? The whalers, unnerved and overwhelmed, took the logbook and fled the ship. They watched as the Octavius disappeared once more into the fog, carried away by the icy currents, as if the sea itself sought to reclaim its dark secret. The Octavius was never seen again. To this day, sailors whisper of a ghostly ship cursed to wander the Arctic for eternity. Some say, on cold moonlit nights, the ship can still be seen, drifting silently among the icebergs, her frozen crew eternally at their posts. Perhaps the Arctic keeps its secrets well, or perhaps the sea takes what it wants, leaving behind only chilling tales to remind us of its untamed, unforgiving power. The sea has its secrets, dark, unfathomable, and eternal, but none are more famous than the legend of the Flying Dutchman, the cursed ghost ship doomed to roam the oceans for all eternity. The tale begins in the 17th century, during the height of maritime exploration, when the seas were both a promise of fortune and a threat of death. The Dutchman, as the ship was known, set sail from Amsterdam, whose captain, a man whose name was lost to time, but whose ignorance would ensure he was never be forgotten. They say it happened off the treacherous coast of Cape of Good Hope, where the waters churn violently and the wind howls like the cries of the damned. The captain, brimming with hubris, refused to heed the pleas of his crew to turn back, as the storm of unimaginable fury bore down upon them. Onward, he roared, his voice defiant against the wrath of nature itself. I'll round this cape if it takes me until Judgment Day. The heavens seemed to answer his challenge. The storm descended with unrelenting ferocity, waves as tall as mountains crashing against his ship, the winds tearing through her sails like the wails of vengeful spirits. The crews begged, pleaded, and prayed, but the captain would not yield. Some say he struck down a mutinous sailor with his own blade, his soul now bound to the ship by this act of blood. Others whisper that he cursed the name of God in madness, sealing his fate. Then, at the height of the tempest, the ship vanished. No wreckage was ever found, no survivors to tell the tale. But the Flying Dutchman was far from gone. For centuries since, sailors have reported sightings of a ghostly ship, its sails glowing with an eerie, unearthly light. It appears out of the mist, moving against the wind, defying the laws of nature. Some say it is an omen of doom, a harbinger of disaster for those who lay eyes upon it. The most chilling accounts describe the crew of the Dutchman, pale, ghastly figures with hollow eyes, toiling in silence as if bound to their eternal task. The captain stands at the helm, his face twisted in a grimace of eternal defiance, still steering the seas to break him. The ship is said to be cursed to wander the oceans until the end of time, never finding safe harbour, never escaping its eternal torment. One of the most famous sightings came in 1881, when Prince George of Wales, later King George V, and his crew reported seeing the spectral ship during their voyage. The sailors described her as shimmering in a ghostly red glow before vanishing into thin air, leaving behind only a sense of dread. Even now, sailors whisper of the Flying Dutchman when the fog rolls in and the sea grows restless. They say, if you see her, you must look away, for to lock eyes with that cursed vessel is to invite the wrath of the sea and the curse of eternal wandering. The vast sunlit waters off the coast of Australia seem an unlikely stage for mystery. Yet it was here in 2007 that the Kaz II, a sleek white catamaran, was found adrift, a chilling enigma beneath the blazing tropical sun. The vessel had been spotted bobbing aimlessly near the Great Barrier Reef, its sails fluttering lazily in the breeze. When the Coast Guard arrived, they found the scene almost idyllic at first glance. The boat was in pristine condition, floating serenely on the sparkling waves. But as they boarded the Kaz II, unease began to creep in like a shadow over the water. The ship was empty, eerily, impossibly empty. Inside, everything seemed perfectly ordinary, as though the crew had merely stepped away for a moment. A laptop sat open and powered on at the navigation desk. Plates of food were still set on the table untouched, as if the men had been interrupted mid-meal. The ship's engine was idling softly, and the safety equipment, including life jackets and emergency beacons, were all accounted for. Yet the three men who had set sail aboard the Kaz II, experienced sailors embarking on a journey of adventure and camaraderie, were gone. No sign of a struggle, no distress calls, no evidence of foul play. It was as though they had simply vanished into the wind. As investigators pieced together the fragments of the crew's journey, the details only deepened the mystery. The ship's GPS showed a straight, uneventful course, with no sudden changes or erratic movements to suggest disaster. The weather had been calm, the waters gentle, and yet there was one small, unsettling clue. The ship's lifebuoy was missing, trailing a rope that hung limply in the water. Was it a desperate attempt at rescue, a silent witness to a tragedy unseen? Theories began to swirl like storm clouds on the horizon. Had one of the men fallen overboard, prompting the others to attempt a rescue? Had the calm seas concealed a rogue wave, or a sudden squall, sweeping them all into the depths? Or had something else entirely, a force more sinister and unseen, claimed them beneath the endless blue sky? The locals whispered of the unforgiving vastness of the sea, its secrets guarded jealously by its depths. Sailors spoke of eerie silence that descends when the ocean decides to take what it will, leaving no trace, no explanation, only questions that linger like the fading wake of a ship. The Kaz II was towed to shore, examined and re-examined, yet the answers never came. The families of the missing men were left with only fragments of their lives, suspended in time aboard the ghostly vessel. To this day, the fate of the Kaz II crews remains an unsolved riddle, a chilling reminder that the sea, even in its calmest moments, is a place of mystery. It gives, it takes, and it keeps its darkest stories hidden beneath the waves. And so, the Kaz II drifts in the collective memory, a ghost ship of modern times, its unanswered questions a haunting echo across the boundless ocean. The sea, for all its beauty, has always been a place of untold tragedies and whispered legends. Among these tales, one stands out: a ghostly ship said to sail the Goodwin Sands once every 50 years, forever cursed by love, jealousy, and betrayal. This is the story of the Lady Lovibond. It was February the 13th, 1748, when the schooner set sail from England. Her decks adorned with garlands and flowers, her crew dressed in celebration. The Lady Lovibond was not embarking on an ordinary voyage. Captain Simon Reed, brimming with joy, had taken his new bride Annetta aboard for their honeymoon. Against superstition, he allowed a woman on the ship, a choice that would seal the fate for all aboard. The day was calm, the sea shimmering under a pale winter sun. The crew worked diligently, but a shadow hung over the ship, a shadow cast by the first mate, John Rivers. Rivers, a man consumed by unrequited love for Annetta, had watched the wedding with a heart burning with envy and despair. As the day wore on and the ship sailed closer to the infamous Goodwin Sands, a deadly stretch of shifting sandbanks off the Kent coast, Rivers' jealousy boiled over. Alone at the helm with the crew and the captain below deck celebrating, he seized his chance. In a fit of madness, Rivers turned the ship's wheel sharply, steering the Lady Lovibond directly towards the treacherous sands. By the time the crew realized the ship's course, it was too late. The schooner collided with the hidden sands, her hull splintering under the impact. The sea roared to claim its prize, waves crashing over the decks, pulling the ship and all aboard into the watery abyss. For years the Lady Lovibond was lost, her story fading into maritime lore, but then came the sightings. 50 years after the tragedy, on February the 13th, 1798, sailors reported a strange ship near the Goodwin Sands. Her sails glowed with an unearthly light, and her decks seemed alive with shadowy figures. But as the sailors drew nearer, the ship vanished into thin air. Another 50 years passed. On February the 13th, 1848, witnesses once again saw the phantom schooner, her bridal garland still adoring her railings, her crew frozen in eternal reverie, and then, as before, she disappeared, leaving nothing but whispers in her wake. The sightings continued, each separated by 50 years, as if the Lady Lovibond was trapped in a spectral loop, reliving her doomed voyage. Sailors who dare to speak of her say the ghost ship appears as a warning, her glowing figure a grim reminder of love turned to obsession, of jealousy leading to ruin. Now each February 13th, mariners passing the Goodwin Sands tread carefully, their eyes scanning the horizon for the telltale glow of the Lady Lovibond. Some claim to hear ghostly laughter carried on the wind, the echoes of a celebration that ended in tragedy. The sea, they say, never forgets, and neither does the Lady Lovibond. Forever wandering the waters, her love and her curse immortalized in the endless tides. In the quiet waters of the Northumberland Strait, between Prince Edward Island and the mainland of Canada, a chilling legend drifts through the fog. For over 2 centuries, sailors and locals alike have spoken in hushed tones of a fiery apparition, a ghostly ship engulfed in flames, sailing silently on the horizon. The first recording sightings is lost to history, but the story has persisted, passed down through generations. It is said that on calm, moonlit nights, or during a thick, unnatural fog, the spectral vessel appears out of nowhere. At first, it seems ordinary, a stately schooner with tall masts and billowing sails, but then, as if ignited by an unseen hand, the ship bursts into flames. The fire is no ordinary blaze. It burns unnaturally bright, the flames licking high into the night sky, yet the ship never succumbs to the inferno. Her sails remain intact, her hull undamaged, as she glides eerily across the water, untouched by the destruction that consumes her. Witnesses have described the ship as terrifyingly vivid, her glowing masts and fiery rigging casting an orange light across the darkened sky. Some claim to see shadowy figures aboard her deck, phantoms running frantically, as if trying to escape the eternal fire. Others hear cries for help, carried on the wind, fading into the night like distant echoes. But no matter how many have tried, the ghost ship remains forever out of reach. One of the most infamous tales comes from a group of fishermen who, in the late 19th century, saw the fiery vessel near Charlottetown. Panicked and determined to save the lives aboard, they rowed out to meet her. As they approached, the flames roared higher, illuminating the black water. But just as they thought they would reach her, the ship vanished. The fishermen were left adrift, the water around them undisturbed, the air filled only with silence. What is the origin of this ghostly vessel? No one truly knows. Some say it was a schooner destroyed by pirates, her crew left to burn alive, their vengeful spirits forever bound to the ship. Others believe it was a merchant ship, caught in a sudden deadly blaze, her sailors doomed to relive their fiery end for all eternity. Local law warns against gazing too long at the ghost ship. To see her is to bring bad luck, even death. Those who encounter her are often struck with an unshakable sense of dread, as if the ship carries the weight of centuries of sorrow, despair, and unfinished stories. Even now, the ghost ship of Northumberland Strait is said to appear from time to time, her flames cutting through the darkness like a sinister beacon. Sailors who have ventured too close tell of a sudden chill in the air, a silence that feels alive with watchful eyes, and the unmistakable, unrelenting pull of something otherworldly. But always the ship slips away, back into the mist, back into legend, and so she remains, a haunting presence on the Northumberland Strait. A reminder that some stories are never fully told, and some spirits are never truly at rest.